Okay, people. So I've always been a fan of, sword and sorcery and all of that kind of thing, which probably was one of the things that drew me to Lord of the Rings, right? And classic shit like that. So I was very interested to check out Alpha Rift. Now, this is the new film from Dan Lantz. Okay. He also wrote the piece. You know what I mean? And he produced it along with Jody Schultz, Jim Beckett, Adam Danoff, Roy Corkin, Rob Margalis, and Tom McHenry. Cinematography is handled by Mike Henley and Tom McCoy. Oh my gosh. It's an allergy day, people. Jesus Christ. The editing is handled by Guzman Cabarello, Chetan Kumar, Lance, Alejandro Macias, and Natasha Varanjas. Casting was Diana Harry and Jason Loftus. Production design is Norman Dodge. We got makeup by Sarah Francavilla, Diane Heller, Fallon Morasa, Brianna Smith, Eva Marie Swarbat, and Sherry Vital. Okay. Now, our cast, right? We should we should probably talk about the cast and all of that who was involved. You know what I mean? Because we had some good names attached. All right, so Lance. Oh, where are we? Yes, here we go. People, dear. Lance Henrik plays Corbin. Aaron Dalla Villa plays Nolan. We've got Rachel Nelson as Gabby. Philip N. Williams is Blades. We've got Graham Wolfe as Vickers. Alison Maladra as Kate. Okay. And the gist of the story, well, it's like this. Nolan Parthmore was just a regular guy hanging with friends, working his game store, flirting with his co-worker. Then one day, destiny came calling. A courier delivers a mysterious antique helmet with no note or description. When Nolan puts it on, his whole world changes. The helmet comes to life and calls out to an evil demon, Lord Dragsmere, who was imprisoned by Nolan's deceased father. Nolan soon discovers he is next in the bloodline, heir to the Nobleman, destined to become a hero whether he wants to or not. Since the Dark Ages, the Noblemen have been guardians against the 13 devils apostates. Dark forces escaped from hell and let loose upon an earth. Generations later, it's the heirs of these original knights that possess the power to open the Alpha Rift, the only defense against these supernatural foes, which, definitely sounds pretty cool, right? And Dan, right, we got a statement from Dan Lantz himself. I have always been a fan of knights, chivalry, and the Arthurian legend. Throughout my career, I've wanted to make a movie about medieval knight in modern times, sort of a contemporary Don Quixote. My first incarnation of Alpha Rift was back in 1995 with a story called The Nobleman. It was originally about a comic book store owner with a chaotic obsession with an undercover policewoman. Every few years or so, I would pull the script off the shelf and do a rewrite. By 2017, the idea of a comic book store had become cliche, and I needed a new hook to separate Alpha Rift from the pack. A trip to the PAX East gaming convention gave me the epiphany that finally brought Alpha Rift into its own. The lead character, Nolan Parthmore, is an avid tabletop gamer. The idea that the lead character has been playing the hero on a game board his whole life really appealed to me. Yes, I know you were saying, what about The Last Starfighter? Well, that thought came through my head, as well as so I made Nathan Provis' journey was different. He is not the most skilled nor the first choice to fight the demon unleashed on the world, but he is the one destiny has chosen. Just like in real life, we are unprepared for life's greatest challenges, and Nolan is no different. I worry to tell the story of a reluctant hero. Nolan is not a Luke Skywalker seeking out adventure or an angst-filled teen wanting a better life. His life is actually pretty good, and he has no desire for change. I try to put myself and hopefully the audience into his shoes. Reluctant at first, but intrigued by suddenly finding himself the chosen one. However, he quickly realizes that combat training is painful and being a hero isn't all it's cracked out to be. Ultimately, I wanted to create a fun movie going experience for the kind of folks who love a good escape. This is the kind of movie I loved to watch when I was a kid and still love today. Giving the audience some action, laughs, and a little romance will hopefully bring them joy and wanting more. That's just the beginning of the Alpha Rift story. Dum dum dum. And yes, it does feel like it's the first in a series because we get hints of more in the Nobleman heritage, right? Which is serious, and also could take us to fields far afield, far other places in the world. You know what I mean? So it starts off, and you are kind of because we see two guys in helmets fighting, but just helmets, right? Rest of the garb is just normal everyday clothes, and they're fighting in the streets of a big city. So we see this, and then you see men with like rifles running, but while these two are fighting, and it ends with them stabbing each other, and we see this green mist. We see this green mist. Then we jump forward 15 years, right? So we're just like, huh, okay. And you know what I mean? Because it looks a little odd, just the helmet and all of that kind of thing. But you are intrigued. It does intrigue you. And so then we're with Nolan. He's in his store. He's talking with his friends. They're playing tabletop and all of that. And this is when we're kind of introduced to the nobleman. Right, we learn more about them because they're explaining it to the kids playing the game and all of that kind of jazz, right? And it does sound like a fun game, right? It sounds a fun game. It sounds like a Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer, something along those sort of lines. You know what I mean? So we have this. And we kind of get more about Nolan and his friend. There's Gabby, who, they both kind of like each other. It's one of them things, right? Um, but then we kind of flip and see the nobleman at work, right? We see how the apostle, right? This new apostle, Lord Dagmar, kind of comes to be, right? Which all of those things is pretty fun. It's pretty fun. And I will say the first thing that really sprung to mind was this reminded me of one of those 80s films, right? It reminded me of a Willow, a Legend, right? A Princess Bride, a Flash Gordon. No, those are the kind of movies that sprung to mind because it's a little hammy, it's a little goofy, but it's very fun, right? It's very fun in how it's kind of put together and brought to life. Now, you do look at it and like some of the effects, yeah, some of the effects could be better, right? But it's a low budget indie, so you understand and you can roll with it, right? Um, and it is that that journey. A kid, he finds a helmet and he gets to live this kind of fantasy that he's been playing. But then, yeah, there's that realization that it's not quite like how we be playing, how we, game master it and all of that kind of thing. It's not quite the same. It's not quite the same. You're not going to enjoy every moment of it. Now, there are things, right, that you do roll your eyes out a little bit because now there is a thing where he says, "Oh, he took fencing lessons. He's been doing fencing all his life as a kid, right? But his sword fighting, he kind of sucked." You know what I mean? It's just like, how can you be that bad at sword fighting if you've been doing this shit? You know what I mean? And then it's just that thing, and I get it, right? You're trying to build intrigue, so you have someone and they're kind of fighting back at being told what to do and all of this. But I would say the fact that he owns a gaming store, right? You imagine he's read comics, he watches, superhero films, sword and sorcery films, all of that kind of jazz. So you understand the process, right? You understand the process and you understand that the people training you are trying to help you, right? And then also the yeah, the training's going to start off at one level and it's going to get more difficult, right? So there is this kind of braggy cockiness and just petulance that you think, all right, what I mean, at first, but chill it a little. And the love romance, I could have done without it, right? There is a point when the kiss is a pet. And it's like the best kiss. If you're like, homie, you ain't been kissed much then. Yeah. But these are small little things because however goofy, I did enjoy it. It was fun. It was fun and it did bring me back. As I said, it brought me back to the 80s and watching things as a little kid. When you watch the Karate Kid and just stuff like that, right? Um, and yeah, there's an innocence there, you know. Plus, you watch this and you'd be like, huh, I wonder if that could be a board game. Because you kind of feel that, yeah, that could be a nice little spin-off. You know what I mean? Board game. They could spin it into comics, just all manner of things. And yeah, it's set up in a way where we will probably we could get more. Right? There's the opportunity to tell more in the Alpha Rift story. And it's a decent story. You know what I mean? It's a decent story. And I say this, right? Remember the 2000s Dungeons and Dragons film, right? That sucked. And Your Highness sucked. I preferred this to both of those. So, yeah, there's your gauge, people. There is your gauge. You know what I mean? Like, I thought this was better. And as I said, look, if you enjoy those classic films from the 80s, now, I'm not saying this is necessarily as good as A Princess Bride, but it has the spirit of, right? It's got the spirit of a Willow. You know what I mean? It's got the spirit of a legend, a Flash Gordon, right? It imbues those stories. Uh, so, yeah, if you want to relive that childhood, or you just want a sword and sorcery film with a slightly different tilt to it, then people, Alpha Rift may be the film for you. You know what I mean? So yeah, go check it out on all your favorite VODs. You know, because I think it could definitely be something that you dig. You know, because I did, right? And you know, hey, I've got pretty good taste. You know what I mean? I've got pretty good taste, people. So maybe get you some Alpha Rift.